Hola muchachos. Today I want to talk to you about nosotros commands. Nosotros commands are a little different from other commands. They aren't used to give orders, but rather to make suggestions. So if we were to compare and contrast, for example, haz tu tarea, that's a command in the normal sense, right? Do your homework. That's a direct command, and those are the kinds we've worked on with tu commands, mandatos informales, mandatos formales, which is to say usted and ustedes commands. However, nosotros commands, like I said, are a little different. So if I said hagamos la tarea, I'm making a suggestion. Let's do our homework. Basically, in English, every nosotros command translates to let's do something. Let's eat. Let's talk. Let's do our homework. Let's play sports. And you want to keep that in mind as we move forward. Okay, the good news is that we've already learned subjunctive, so making nosotros commands is quite easy. You just take the present tense nosotros subjunctive conjugation of your verb, and you have a let's command, a nosotros command. So with comer, it would be comamos. With describir, it's going to be describamos. With tener, we're just going to take that yo form, drop the o, add an opposite ending like we would with subjunctive, and we get tengamos. Hablar, hablemos. Remember that to make subjunctive with nosotros, we take the yo form of our verb, for example, yo digo. We take off the o on our, in this case, digo, so we end up with di, and we add the opposite ending. So for er-ir verbs, we're going to add an ar ending. For ar verbs, we're going to add er-ir endings. In this case, decir is an ir verb normally at the end, so we're going to add an ar verb, nosotros ending, digamos. Okay? Also remember your irregulars. Sepamos doesn't come from the yo form, so we can't follow the normal rule. Demos, which is the verb dar. Remember that sepamos comes from saber. Estemos, from the verb estar. Seamos, ser. Vamos. This is a little different. You would think that it would be vayamos, which it is in the negative. We do say no vayamos. But the affirmative command for ir is actually vamos. Slightly different from what we might expect. And then, of course, we have to remember our regular O to U's and E to I's. The three that we've talked about a lot in class are dormamos instead of duermamos, muramos instead of mueramos. Even though the yo form is muero, we go from O to U with morir. So muramos. And divirtamos. Okay, nos divertamos, for example, not nos diviertamos. So try to keep that in mind. Or nos diviertamos. I'm sorry, it's even hard to say if you're not used to it. Divirtamos is what we want with divertir. All right, that was the good news. Now the bad news. Reflexives have to have a nos on the end, and you have to take off the s at the end of your verb and add an accent over the third to last syllable. That's when we make an affirmative reflexive verb command with nosotros. So, for example, with divertir or divertirse, in this case, a reflexive, it's going to be divirtámonos. Notice that we had to add an accent three syllables back, nos, mos, and then on the a, divirtámonos, and we had to eliminate the s at the end of divertamos, which would normally be there. Divertamos, we took out the s and we ended up with divirtámonos. So to continue, let's make a command with reconciliarse. So this too is a reflexive verb. We're going to have a nos on the end. We're going to have to take the s off the verb, the reconciliemos part, and we're going to have to add an accent over the third syllable back. So if you go back when we add a pronoun, the last syllable is nos, the second to last syllable is mos, and the syllable before that, the third one back, is going to be the e. So we end up with reconciliémonos. Okay, reconciliémonos. Notice the nos, the pronoun on the end, and notice our accent over the e, three syllables back. And notice that we got rid of the s at the end of the verb form. Okay, if you add one pronoun, lo, la, los, las, me, te, le, les, at the end of your command, you need to add an accent to the third to last syllable. So just like we saw in the first reflexive example. Hablemoslo, for example. Hablemoslo. We added lo to the end of our verb. We went back two syllables, lo and mos, and then the third one was where we placed our accent. Three syllables back, hablemos. All right, so we were saying we ended up with hablemoslo. Hablemoslo. Okay, if you have two pronouns, you have to place an accent on the fourth to last syllable. So the example I'm going to give you here is with the verb estirarse, which is a reflexive verb, estirarse, and we're talking about los músculos. Okay, that's what we're going to stretch. So we're going to have a reflexive pronoun, nos, and a pronoun to replace los músculos, los. And we end up, remember that we need to take the S out of the end of our verb form. So normally it would be estiremos would be the verb form. We're going to drop that S, and we're going to add an accent four syllables back. One syllable is los, two syllables is nos, mo is the third one, and then we're going to add our accent over the E. So we get estirémonoslos. Estirémonoslos. And you can hear that accent. Estirémonoslos. And with se on the end, you have to drop the se off the end of your verb form and add an accent on the fourth to last syllable. So instead of digámoselo with two s's, okay, here we added se and lo as our pronouns on the end of digamos. We're going to have digámoselo, but we're only going to write one s instead of two. Okay, more good news though. In a negative command, it's a lot easier. Just put your pronouns before the verb. So, no se lo digamos. Let's not tell him that, okay, or it. No nos gritemos. Let's not yell at each other. Okay, that's one of those reciprocal reflexives, right? But you put your pronouns before your verb, just like you normally do in any negative command. All right. Okay, now I would like you to take the sentences on the left and change them to sentences with nosotros commands on the right. So, cambia la oración a un mandato con nosotros. The first example is, Señor Sánchez hizo una calavera de azúcar. Okay. Señor Sánchez made a sugar skull. I changed that to a command or a nosotros suggestion, I should say. Señor Sánchez, hagamos una calavera de azúcar. Señor Sánchez, let's make a sugar skull. Okay, I want you to do the same with the rest of them. Okay, you can write this on a separate sheet of paper on a Word document, or you can do this on the PowerPoint as it's uploaded to Edline. Okay, so again, make sure you complete these four suggestions with nosotros and bring them to class tomorrow. Okay, now we're going to do something a little different. I'm going to give you a situation. The situation is on the left. I'm going to read it to you. And I'd like you to make commands using the elements on the right. Now, the commands have to have something to do with the situation, obviously, and you'll notice that a lot of the verbs are, like, for example, ponerse de acuerdo is actually in the situation, okay? So is ir, okay? So obviously, these are things drawn from the situation. They need to have something to do with them. To make your full suggestion, you're going to have to add some elements, like perhaps articles or prepositions, okay? So, here's the situation. Mi amigo y yo tuvimos un malentendido. Él quiso ir al cine y yo no. No nos pudimos poner de acuerdo y yo no fui con él porque no me gustaban las películas que había. Okay, that's our situation. You can reread it and then go ahead and make four suggestions with nosotros, okay, using the verbs and the elements on the right. Okay, do this on your separate sheet of paper, on your Word document, or on this PowerPoint if you have set it you open in another window. Okay, this time it's a little different. The situation is a dialogue. So I'm going to read the dialogue to you in a moment. simply write the commands, write commands again, or nosotros suggestions again, using the elements and prompts on the right. Note that in the second one down, you have to use resolver en conflicto again, but you have to replace conflicto with a pronoun and write your suggestion. And in the last one, you have two pronouns, le and lo. Note that you may have to change le. So here's the dialogue. Mi mamá y yo tuvimos un conflicto la semana pasada. Ella me criticó mucho y me enojé. Nos peleamos por un rato. ¿Qué va? Sí, en serio, fue horrible. Mi mamá hasta me aconseja que hable con un terapeuta. Pero yo no fui. And you can reread the dialogue and go ahead and use the prompts and the elements on the right to write your 4 suggestions. Please bring them to class tomorrow. Gracias por su atención y hasta mañana, muchachos.